This is Golden Years, a roadmap to navigate retirement with Mark Cordner, the podcast.
Tom Hanks, I'm a huge fan of his. What about you, Mark?
Oh, I love Tom Hanks. I mean, he's every man's friend, as they say.
Oh, yeah. My gosh, yes. I've met him, and he is honestly one of the coolest people I've ever met. Super cool guy. Like, you feel like you've known him for years. Like, he's just a guy you've been hanging out with. And really down-to-earth, somebody that I think would be really interesting to have a conversation with, for sure.
I'd love to have him as a neighbor. Not that I can afford
right?
his neighborhood.
Nope, not so much. Well, talking about being a neighbor, he and a couple of his neighbor actor friends, they got together for a roundtable discussion, and the Hollywood Reporter asked Hanks what he regrets not learning earlier in life.
I wish I had known that this too shall pass. You feel bad right now? You feel pissed off? You feel angry?
Yes,
this too shall pass.
Great.
You feel great? You feel like you know all the answers. You feel like that everybody finally gets you, and there you are.
Yeah.
This too shall pass.
Ooh,
time is your ally, and if nothing else, just wait.
Just wait.
Just wait it out.
Now, while that's great advice, just wait it out. You know, this too shall pass, right? You know, the sun will come up tomorrow mentality. You can't necessarily just wait when it comes to retirement planning, right?
No, you can't, because the truth is that the majority of people don't get to retire on their own timeline. Often there's outside circumstances like health, or maybe an employer's situation that forces us into an earlier retirement than expected. And we often can't go back to work after we've left. I mean, sometimes we can go back and maybe work as a greeter at Walmart or whatever, or we can maybe start our own business, but it may not be at the same kind of income. So retirement is something we really need to get right. But I love his healthy perspective on, you know, this too shall pass, because we all go through those circumstances. I had a couple in just a few days ago, and they were feeling a lot of stress. And it wasn't from us. It was just that in preparing to come visit with us, we had asked them to do certain things to, you know, get us some documents, get us some information. And they started to have kind of a reality check, and they were feeling like maybe they weren't well enough prepared as they thought. Well, the truth was they were far better off than they thought. But we often tend to be very critical on ourselves. And when we're going through those bottlenecks of life where things become painful, you know, job transitions or changes in our family circumstances, marriages, divorces, all these kind of things that happen in life can bring a real darkness. And so that's one of the things I love about working with people, is we get to be a sounding board for them. We get to help put things in perspective. And the people, candidly, who have done the best job preparing for retirement often feel quite the opposite. They feel like they're behind everyone else, when the truth is they're in the top 5 or 10% of Americans, and they don't have a clue that they've done that well. Now, obviously, money and life is not a race. It's not a competition with anyone else. We start at different points, and God's given each of us different gifts. So it's not about comparison, but being able to have a reality check from a third party, you know, a professional like myself who has talked again with hundreds, if not thousands of people over the last 32 years, we can bring a perspective that people lack. And when they tend to despair or think, oh my heavens, I'm never going to get over this or that setback, we can bring reality in. I mean, that the biggest harm, frankly, financially for investors, is those who try to actively manage it. They have a downturn in the market, they panic, they pull money out, and then they miss the upswing, for example. If they had a guide, you know, there by their side, that guide could have brought a little more rationality in it. You don't jump off the roller coaster just because it's going down. It's going to come back up, as Tom Hanks would suggest. Life has cycles.
Life does have cycles, and your retirement income plan could have cycles too. But I like how you mentioned having a guide, and that's really where you come in. I think it's so important. I want our listeners to understand that it's not like you just come in, you meet with Mark, and he says, all right, I'll give you a call in a couple weeks, I'll show you what I have. I mean, this is literally a handheld, if you want it to be, guided tour of what your retirement's going to look like when it comes to working with you.
It is. I mean, and certainly we can sketch out an idea for people, and it's an Etch-a-Sketch pad, as it were, because life comes along in bumps we have to revise. But we can absolutely sketch things out, a roadmap for them. They get to, of course, fill in the colors. I mean, that the vividness of that experience going forward is entirely up to the client. But we can absolutely show them ways to get to the destination they want to get to. With pretty rare exception. Often it's just requires a change in thinking or a little more education on a particular topic, or just learning that, hey, there are vehicles out there that can help me across this raging river of life that we think is going to block us from the promised land, as it were, on the other side. There are ways to ford those rivers, and that's where the professional really earns their keep, is by helping people have perspective in those dark moments, particularly. I can think of a couple that came in after one of our classes, and they had some setbacks in life, and they frankly were a bit discouraged. They didn't think they would be able to retire with the kind of income that they needed. And literally, it was a matter of 45 minutes of the whiteboard, and I was able to show them that, yes, you not only can retire at the level you want, at the spend rate you want, but you could do it today. You don't have to wait the next 3 to 4 years. And for the man in particular, it was very liberating. The woman actually had to leave the room. She went to the ladies' room and became very emotional. She didn't want to get that emotional in front of me, but it was this idea that, yes, we can be liberated from this situation that we think is not good. And it was just a matter of education, showing them how to structure some things, how to look at certain intergenerational planning issues that they had wanted to do, how to look at those and accomplish those goals differently. And yes, they were able to leave work early. That's one of the fun things, is when they call me a week later and say, I put in my resignation notice.
Heck yeah.
And the boss isn't happy, but I sure am.
I feel great. Exactly. I love that. And, it also comes down to education, right? You don't know what you don't know. So if you're looking at statements coming in, or you're looking at potentially how much you have saved and trying to do the math and figure out how long is that going to last, why are you stressing yourself out? Why don't you just come in and see Mark and say, look, this is what I have. I'm prepared to do extra if I need to, but I would rather throw the towel in at the 9 to 5 sooner rather than later. And that's a great example of how you let that happen. I mean, they could have worked 4 or 5 years for nothing, and that's 4 or 5 years you missed out in retirement.
Yeah, it's really about the quality of life at a certain point. And for some people, the answer is maybe it's not a full retirement. Maybe it's just a transition into a different kind of work. And it could be some kind of work that maybe feeds your heart. Maybe it's working with your favorite charity. So it's not all about the money. Maybe there's a little bit of money just to take the edge off of, buying groceries, so you don't have to tap into your long-term retirement savings. But a transition in itself, a change in itself, can be very liberating. One of the cool things, I'll put a plug out there for an organization I think highly of. If you go to the website CoolWorks, that's CoolWorks, CoolWorks.com, it tells about opportunities for people to actually work part-time in some of the most beautiful places in the world. And so we see international students, we see retirees who are going to national parks, for example, that need to be staffed on a seasonal basis. I've had a number of clients who have been able to do things like that. I've got one couple that they decided to leave early, and they're living out of their motorhome right now. And frankly, what they're doing is going to different motorhome KOA type communities, and they're basically substitute management. They're filling in for the people who live there full time. Places like CoolWorks can let you earn a small amount of income, live in the summers or other seasons in beautiful places. Opportunities like this couple who travel in the motorhome and they go to meet wonderful people who are living that same kind of lifestyle, but they're getting income by helping out on a part-time basis. But I think in this one case, the woman, she used to work at the DMV. And I remember she always looked stressed when I had to go to the DMV and I'd see this client. She quit working at the DMV. She's living out of her motorhome. She's managing KOAs here and there. I think they're in Georgia now, actually. There's all sorts of different ways of doing this.
Sure. And
change can be liberating if you know your opportunities. So come meet with us. We can share ideas with you, such as CoolWorks. Has nothing to do with my business, but there's great things out there.
Investment advisory services offered through Golden Years Financial LLC, a registered investment advisory firm. Insurance is offered through Golden Years Insurance Services. These firms do not provide legal or tax advice. Consult your own legal and tax advisors before taking actions that may have tax implications. Investing in securities involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Insurance contracts' principal protection is based on the claim-paying ability of the respective insurer. None of the information contained on this website shall constitute an offer to sell or solicit to buy a security or insurance product. The information and opinions contained on this site or requested from this site are provided by third parties believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. They are provided for informational purposes only and are not a solicitation to buy or sell any of the products mentioned. Any media logos and/or trademarks contained herein are the property of their respective owners, and no endorsement by those owners of Mark Cordner, Golden Years Financial, or Golden Years Insurance is stated or implied.